I know, right? What's up with the flight case, Nick? Well, as you can see by the size of it, obviously it's for a snare drum. And anybody can get one made for their snare drum. But in this video, we're gonna dive into a particular snare drum that's made of a material that is heavily sought after. What's going on, everybody? Nick Costa here, and in this video, we're gonna talk a little bit about snare drums. Now, obviously, as a Ludwig endorser, I exclusively play their brand. As we all know, when it comes to metal snare drums, they are the sound that everybody is going after. Whether that is the Black Beauty, the Superphonic, or any of the new current variations, including the Heirloom series, or some of those new brass and copper Acrylites. Regardless, they are the pivotal sound of a metal snare drum. Now, unfortunately, there is one particular type of drum that they do not make. Now, you might be asking yourself, well, what's up with the flight case then? Let's put this off to the side, and let's go ahead and get this box over here and show you all the contents.
So I'll take this medicine to break this fever down and hiding. Tell me, do you hate me? Why is it gonna make this?
Oh, by the way,
Before you find another someone. It's getting hot down here. I've been stuck inside. Some kind of trap was set before I lost my mind. I surrender now and I.
this thing is so nuts. Let's talk about the shell specs for a second. This is a CA907 bronze shell, 3mm thick with 5mm re-rings that were machined into the top and bottom of the shell. This shell was made by John and the crew over at Duluth Brass Manufacturing in Duluth, Minnesota. Now for the hoops, we have CA954 hoops that have been made to match the shell. So some of you may be asking, why are you making a bell bronze drum when you can get one already made? Well, simple. If you've ever looked for a bell bronze drum, you most likely have to sell a kidney or everything you own to buy one. Now, of course, there are some cheaper alternatives out there now, but they're not really bell bronze. So if you're unfamiliar with bell bronze snare drums, they became really popular in the 80s and 90s. They were known for having this really unique sound. Because they were only made for a limited time and they had that distinctive sound, more and more people wanted to get them and the prices started to go up and up. Now, there are a ton of companies who started spitting out bell brass snare drums. And they would tell you you were getting a deal because the drum was a little over $1,000. Unfortunately, they weren't quite the same. The materials they were using for the shells weren't making them a true bell bronze snare drum like those sought-after drums from the 80s and 90s. Plus, Ludwig's never made one before. So I decided, let's put one together. So I reached out to John at Duluth Manufacturing and gave him the specs of the shell that I wanted, as well as hoops for 10 lugs. I then sent out hardware to John so he could drill the shell, and then by the time I got my hands on it, all I have to do is assemble. So let's go ahead and get this thing set up and start putting it together. All right, so let's talk about the hardware real quick. So I decided I wanted to go with brass plated hardware because I think this is just going to look killer in all gold. So I actually got some flat imperial lugs from Ludwig so it fits and lines up on the shell beautifully. Also got their brass P88 throw off as well as the butt plate. Now with these flat imperial lugs, I did not get mounting screws because of the fact that depending on the shell depends on how long the screw needs to be. So I reached out to John. John recommended a 9mm long screw, which I got 20 of them from World Max. I also got the traditional metal screws just to be safe. So let's go ahead, let's start putting these lugs on. Let's try the 9mm screw first. So the 9mm is too long. It ends up bottoming out, which is totally fine. That's why we got these as well. Now you're going to notice this screw is a lot shorter and it also has that cup washer for metal drums. There we go.
I could see back to 1992. Tell me what you did last.
Now, just like some of those restoration videos I showed you, sometimes you want to take a look at the lugs and make sure that they're not beat up or anything like that. Some of these lugs have a couple scratches and imperfections on them because they were actually shipped unwrapped, but that's okay. Basically looking for the ones that don't have as many imperfections They'll be the ones that go up front. The ones with a lot of imperfections will just move to the back.
Need a little more focus on. It's the kind of boredom. Take a look at my life. Write another good line. Sweat a little inside. Leave me out of your sight to go hit the lights alone. Drink a little more wine. Another story inside. Shuffle out of my seat so I can go have a smoke.
All right, so far so good. Now the next step, installing snare throw off and butt plate. So this is part of the hardware that I sent over to John. Figure this out, and as we add hardware, this thing is going to get heavier and heavier. You can see a little bit of the light shining through too for the snare bed. Looking good so far. All right, switch over to the other side. I don't even know why I'm using these paper towels. I grabbed it with raw hands anyway, but whatever. Ludwig's new P88 throw off. It's in brass plating, so that way it matches the rest of the drum.
It's the kind of boredom. That's what I could see back to 1992.
So, couple things. Number one, when I set up my snare drum, I like my throw off to be on the left-hand side if I'm sitting behind it. That way, it's out of the way. You can engage, disengage. Don't have to worry about hitting your knee by accident if it's over on the opposite side. I also don't want it to be in the front because then you scratch up your rack tom. I also don't like to have it here between my legs just because of the fact that with previous experience, anytime I've done rim shots, sometimes that disengages the snare wires. I don't think that would happen with the P88, but it's my preference to just have it off to the left. Now, let's talk about that air vent for a second. As you can see, mine is towards the bottom of the shell. This could be completely a placebo effect, but I myself think the drum feels a little more natural with that towards the bottom. Plus, if we're thinking from a physics perspective, you go and you strike a drum, air then has to travel downwards. If you have an air vent towards the top, that means air is escaping out of that shell sooner rather than later. If you look at any drum made by Noble and Cooley, who set the industry standard on how solid shell drums should be made, or if you ever took a look at the drums built by MCD back in the day, you'll notice that we drilled those air vents towards the bottom for that specific reason. All right, so now that this drum is assembled, the next step is to install the hoops and the heads. Well, there it is. Finally fully assembled, all ready to go. And now it's time to see what this thing sounds like. So I'm going to bring it over to the kit, and I'm going to start out in a low tuning and work my way up to a higher tuning just to see how broad of a tuning range this thing actually has. there you have it. 7x14 bell bronze. Snares are rattling. Let's turn them off. That's a little bit better. 7x14 bell bronze. This thing probably weighs more than me for sure. Regardless of how much it weighs, I would love your feedback and hear what you think of this drum. Make sure to leave a comment below letting me know what tuning you thought sounded the best for this drum. And while you're here, make sure you hit that subscribe button as well as the bell notification. That way you're notified of any new content I upload to the channel. Once again, huge thank you to John and crew over at Duluth Brass Manufacturing. If you're looking to make your own bell bronze snare drum, reach out to him and he'll be able to help you out. And that is it. Thanks so much for checking out this video, and until next time, see you later.